You are now listening to the Project Kuwait. Where we stop at nothing to bring you the right facts on health, fitness, and psychology. Featuring some of the world's most experienced professionals so you can learn, live, and live. With your hosts, Meg, Dr. D, and Mehdi. That's been one of the biggest issues over the last 6 months, especially from the people that I've been talking to and a lot of the listeners. They're like, I put on so much weight because of COVID-19. And I said, look, it's a time of crisis. You need to do whatever you can do to maintain whatever healthy living you can. You can't stress out about this time in particular because it's not the norm.
It is the thing that happens to everybody, right? They do just revert back to what they have been doing. Sometimes it lasts longer than 3 weeks, but sometimes not so much. So it does come back to what I was saying about keeping your metrics, like keeping a track of what you're doing, because that stops the lie to ourselves about how long ago it was. There's something magical about writing it down, because you're an A-type person like myself. You like to make lists and tick things off, and it's like, oh, I've done my workout, yay, I feel really good.
All this and more in today's episode. Hey everybody, welcome to this episode of The Project, and joining me all the way from Australia is Katie Gordon. And what intrigued me about Katie is dietless living was one of the first things that popped up. And I think that's something everybody's looking into now. And I wanted to know what the secret sauce was from your perspective, especially with Australia being one of the leaders in health and fitness and health and wellness right now.
Thank you for having me on today, Matthew. Dietless living is exactly what it says on the tin. So I focus on living instead of on dieting, because when we focused on what we want to achieve and what we want to do, we tend to make better eating choices for ourselves, because, when we're eating our way through life, it's generally because there's something missing from our life. And when we're feeling happy and we're feeling in charge and in control of life, we're just making better choices for ourselves on every level. So dietless living, I don't care about the food. I help people work out food for themselves if they don't know, but most people do know. And so really what we resolve in dietless living is how to just turn your focus away from food and turn it to what it is that you want to be achieving and what you think everyone goes, oh, when I lose the weight, I'm going to do X, Y, Z. So we focus on doing X, Y, Z, and then people just move to feeling better and they make better choices for themselves. Plus I teach strategies to overcome cravings and that sort of thing, but that's essentially why it's dietless living.
It's funny, and we preach that on the show all the time, that, eat for performance or eat to feel good, eat to feel better about yourself. And how did you get started down this path? I'm assuming, like many, you probably tried the endless diets that were out there. You tried the endless programs and then like many of us, probably about the 5%, it clicks and it's like, okay, well, what am I doing this for? Let me do it for the right reasons now. So how did your path start?
Well, my path started when I was actually 21. I went from being a size 10 to being a size 16 in a very short period of time, a few months really. And I had no idea what had happened. And I then spent 25 years trying to work out how to get back to a size 10 and stay there. I could get back there, but I couldn't stay there. And so really my journey was just all about all the personal development I did, all different diets, which were the things I did first. Go on all the diets, did the diet pills, you name it. I gave it a red hot shot. And I could lose weight, but not always. Sometimes I couldn't even stick to a diet for 5 minutes. And ultimately, I just got to a point of desperation. I'd been, desperate many times along the way, but I kind of got to a point when I was 46 and I just thought, screw it, excuse my language, but I just thought, no, I can't. I'm trying to lose weight so I can be putting my happiness on hold, waiting until I mastered this eating machine that I'd become. And I thought, it's not going to happen. I've been trying for 25 years and it's just not going to happen. So I'll just accept that I'm going to be overweight all my life and I'm just going to be happy and focus on being happy and focus on doing all the stuff I wanted to do that I thought I'd do when I lose the weight. And voila, 12 months later, I was 20 kilos heavier, lighter, and I've maintained my weight for the last 10 years because I just continue to focus on being happy and take care of that inner voice in the head that pops up and gives me a hard time. But that's really what it is about, that emotional stability and choosing happiness over drama and choosing happiness over worry and fear and all of those things that generally would drive me to eating.
No, and that makes a lot of sense. What are some of the beginning strategies? I mean, what were some of the first steps that you took in towards of a better, healthier living and, the dietless living? What are some of the first steps that our listeners could take if they're looking for a solution to their constant weight problem? Some of them have it. I know that from, the listeners that I've talked to. I get DMs a lot. And then some of our listeners, actually, they are on the side of healthy living, health and wellness. I eat for performance. So what would you say to some of these people?
Well, one of the very first strategies that I employed was I'd actually never watched Seinfeld, but a friend, she was saying about I was just stuck in this Groundhog Day thing. So you need to be like George Costanza and go against every natural instinct and do the opposite. Him. This strategy to, have better dates, better relationships or something. And I went, well, that's a kind of an intriguing philosophy. So that's really one of the things I do teach my clients is how to go against every natural instinct and do the opposite. Instinct's different to intuition. So not to be confused with gut feelings and stuff, but instinct has us actually doing the very same thing over and over and over again. And that is when we get cranky, we have an instinct to reach for a chocolate. When we get tired, we have instinct to have coffees and all of that sort of thing. So go against natural instinct can actually be really fun because you start to do it on all the little things, instead of standing at the hand basin cleaning your teeth in the morning, that's instinct to do that. Go and stand somewhere else and clean your teeth. And it starts to break that Domino's flow for the day, because it's those little things that we do all day, every day that end up with us being at the same places that we're always at. So you can make it a real game and have a lot of fun with it, and that makes it more enjoyable to do. So really just actually go against every natural instinct and do the opposite will have you doing a whole bunch of different things, which will change all of your eating habits.
I find that very funny because that's something that we preach on the show all the time. Like, if your body's craving something or your body wants something, it means your body needs it at that point in time. And, I say this to a lot of people that ask me questions. They're like, well, why are you eating ice cream? Like, because my body craves sugar and carbs right now. Like, I can feel it. Now, what would you say to the person that would come back at you and say, well, that's the wrong perspective, like, we should monitor and reduce carbohydrates, reduce this, reduce that. What would you say to that person?
I'll address actually, because I did hear on one of your podcasts that you did with Meg, because I listened to them before I came on here. And there was one you talked about, what you just said there about having like an urge to eat potato or ice cream and feeling that is intuitive of your body, that you need carbs or you need meat or whatever it is that your body feels driven to eat. So what I would actually say to that would be investigate first what you're having with that, because there's a fine line between, because I do believe that your body tells you what you need to eat, and I pay attention to that myself. And sometimes that is something like waffles with maple syrup, because there's something about that my body wants. But in general, what I find is investigate what it is that you're craving. So if it's the potato that you're craving, think about, is it just the potato I want, or is it potato with butter and sour cream, or, bacon and cheese or whatever? Is it potato with something else, or is it mashed potato? Does it have to be baked potatoes? Does it have to be a style of potatoes? Because what I would tend to lean towards in that case is that it's not so much that your body wants the carbs or that potato particular substance. It's that potato is a comfort food that your body's used to eating. And if you've been not eating it because it's too high in carbs or something else, there's a reason you're not having it, that what happens is your body eventually says, I haven't had my fix. That's my go-to food. That's a comfort food. And I haven't had it and I want it. So I would just ask people to investigate what it is about that food that they want. And so if it's just potato, so will just a steamed potato do? Or does it have to be a certain style of potato with dressings on it? If it's that one, then it's most likely your body saying, I haven't had my fix, give me my fix.
No, that makes a lot of sense, and it's a very good perspective, and I don't think we've ever touched on that before, and that's a great perspective. I mean, personally for me, my potatoes are bland. It's usually just a potato with salt, and I tell my wife all the time, she's like, you eat too much red meat. I'm like, but my body feels like it needs red meat. I can't function on chicken. Chicken it does not sit well with me. I just feel lethargic with chicken, and beef and potatoes is just kind of my wheelhouse and my go-to meal. And if I have a really strenuous workout and I'm craving sugar or I'm craving something, instead of going towards gummy bears, like some people, I'll go towards, like the lighter ice creams or shakes. Sometimes it won't do it for me. And I know I need that trans fat. I need a lot of whatever it is that my body wants. And when I get it, when I feel that craving, it's enough for me. I don't binge. But that's my personal lifestyle. Whereas other people, and I love it because I'll go to a party and someone will see me reach for the ice cream. They're like, dude, you're all healthy and athletic and whatever, and you're eating ice cream. Like, I worked out for 55 minutes. I was doing a CrossFit WOD, so my body lost salt. It lost carbohydrates. It lost magnesium. It lost everything. So now I need to replenish that fuel. If I was a bodybuilder, it would be completely different. Then I could survive on rice and chicken. But when you're doing, as you would know, high strenuous exercise, you need to fill that craving at some points. And, sitting at 16% body fat right now, I'm happy with that. What would you say to someone that is a bodybuilder and they do the whole boiled rice and boiled chicken? What would you say to that person?
Well, that's not really my area of expertise because I don't know. I know that to build muscle and be a bodybuilder or be a professional athlete of any kind, that you've got to have a certain ratio.
Sorry, just let me rephrase that question then. To a trainer, all right? Because a lot of trainers, they train people, and the first thing a person will ask their trainer here, especially in Kuwait, is, oh, what should I be eating? And the trainer will automatically say, cut out carbs, go the boiled chicken, the boiled rice route. What would you say to the trainers that are affecting those individuals who are looking to lose weight?
See, my whole philosophy is totally disregard food because food's not the issue so my audience aren't generally bodybuilders and real exercise like gym fanatics or even gym regulars. They're people who sit behind a desk all day and they may get some exercise, but they're not getting really any exercise. So my advice is to get them moving and then focus on when they're eating, when they're not hungry. Whereas, when you're doing gym and that, you've got to fuel your body. But I do advise my clients because a lot of them go on these calorie restricted diets, they're still working stupid hours in the office and then they're putting in extra gym and, going to boot camp and whatever they're doing, and they're trying to burn through the calories to get a result really quick because that's what we all want. We want to get rid of the fat really quick. And that's where they tend to fall off the cliff because they've gone on a really reduced calorie diet, which puts the body into stress. They're exercising much more than they've been exercising, which puts the body into stress. But because of the way they live their life, which is they're working, 50, 60, 70 hours a week in the office under time pressure, etc., they're already living in a state of survival. And that state of survival with a calorie restriction with too much exercise puts them straight into too much too soon and they all burn out and then they just stop exercising and then they start eating more because like you said before, they feel it's a drive, like a need for their body to replenish what they haven't been eating, but then they actually tip straight into relief eating and comfort eating, trying to get themselves back to feeling good, because that's what happens in your brain when you start eating something that you've restricted, especially if it's one of your comfort foods. And you get that feel-good feeling and all the brain goes, oh, thank you so much. That was really good. And you feel a sense of relief, but really all it was your body returning back to trying to get back to a state of homeostasis and get out of being in a state of survival. There's a lot of eating, especially for people who really putting themselves under strain, whether that's in the gym or just in life. It's to relieve tension in the body because the body can't handle tension, counterproductive to survival. And so if you've got things that you do that help to relieve tension, that's what it's going to keep driving you to. And if you've taught yourself to eat food to relieve tension, which a lot of people do in offices because they haven't got any other outlets, that's where they end up going to is to the food. You know, you guys who work out, you have different drivers for food. You have certain needs for foods that you need to eat.
And that makes sense. And we had Dr. Vera. She wrote a book on addiction and food addiction in particular. And she talked about the dopamine and serotonin release when you eat certain foods and how it makes us feel and how it makes us feel better. And I mean, I think you hit the nail on the head when you talk about comfort foods. Now, why do you think we will diet and then dive right back into the comfort food level? Is it for that dopamine release? Is it for that feel-good feeling? Or is it because we drive our bodies to a certain state or our minds to a certain state where we feel that we have to start binging again in order to feel good about ourselves?
It falls more in the later category because we've all done a diet or lost weight and felt really good. And we haven't immediately gone back to binge eating. You know, it hasn't had the immediate rubber band effect. So we've all had that experience, but we've also had the experience where we've finished an eating plan, whether it's been, you know, to get to your target weight, whatever. And I've certainly been like this, you know, like a locust on a wheat field where you just can't get enough food. The minute that restrictions finish, you get straight back into full-on eating. And really, it comes down to how your life is, which is why dietless living is the focus on your life, because to counteract that part of what's happening. Because the times that I've lost weight and kept weight off, and sometimes I kept it off for a couple of years, but when it came back, what would happen in that 2 years, there would be little spikes, there'd be little up and downs, and there was always this sort of tension inside. Oh, I might want to eat that, and I'd be on top of it. You know, I could feel tense at work, and then, you know, it might come to Friday or something, and there'd be that need to go back to my comfort eating. You know, I'd want something, and that was okay. But when the wheels fell off and my weight would come back, and it would come back really quickly, was when that mounting pressure of day-to-day life, if I was able to manage it, it was fine. But if something new came in, you know, you buy and sell a house, you lose your job, your partner leaves, somebody dies, there's an illness, there's something happens, a personal crisis happens, and that's when the wheels just fall off everything. Because in times of crisis, we don't invent new strategies for dealing and coping with life. We go back to our old ones. So if your old ones were eating and drinking, that's what you tend to go back to. And if you've got too many competing pressures, so let's say it's a loss of a job or something it's a long-term thing, by the time you get that back in control and feel safe again, get your stress levels down, you've already piled on a ton of weight. And if you look at anybody who puts on weight quickly, and if you ask them what their story is, they'll tell you they've just gone through a particularly arduous time. And they just didn't have the mental, emotional, physical resources to deal with it. You know, once I learned how to surf, I was trying to learn how to surf. I'm terrible. So I only did 3 lessons because I realised I was probably going to drown. But when I was learning to surf, the instructor said to me, you know, or to all of us, he said, you know, if you get caught in a rip, when you're pulled out to sea, he said, don't throw away your surfboard. You know, you've got to keep that attached to your leg. And he went to keep talking. And I said, no, stop. I went, what kind of a fool gets out to sea and discards their floaty device? And he went, everybody, because when we panic, we do stupid things. And that's what we do when we have an emotional crisis or a personal crisis. We discard our floaty devices, which is good eating, exercise, socializing, we burrow in and try to fix the problem and we let everything else go. And that's when weight comes back for people.
No, that makes a lot of sense. I mean, especially right now with people putting on the COVID pounds. Can you talk a little bit about that? Because I think that's been one of the biggest issues over the last 6 months, especially from the people that I've been talking to and a lot of the listeners. They're like, I've put on so much weight because of COVID-19. And I said, look, it's a time of crisis. You need to do whatever you can do to maintain whatever healthy living you can. You can't stress out about this time in particular because it's not the norm. It's not something we're used to. And what would you say to that? The people, especially that are getting really down on themselves. I had a young listener, reach out to me and say, I put on 6 kilos since COVID started and I feel terrible. I feel horrible, depression, whatever. And I was like, look, dude, it's okay. Right now, it's okay. You're already stressed out about one thing. You can't over stress about this. So what would you say to some of those people?
I would say, because what happened with everybody with COVID, because it's just out of the box for everyone and it's caused all kinds of personal fear. Like, people have lost their jobs and there has been a lot of problems and they live in places where people are getting sick and there's those real things that are happening. Plus, I suspect it's the same over in all the countries where it's just on the news all day, every day, and we are bombarded with it. And it just gets into our mind and we go into a constant state of survival because we're worried and we're panicking and we're feeling unsafe. And we've all thrown away our floaty devices. Everybody has started burrowing in, trying to fix a problem that they can't fix. And so, we've had to work from home. That's upset everybody's routines. We've not been allowed to go out. We've broken social contacts. We've changed our lives around. And when we make changes, your lovely brain up in the top of our head there starts to feel unsafe. So there's so many things to make us feel unsafe apart from the actual fact that there's a virus out there and there's loss of jobs, etc. There's just so many things, and we haven't been taught enough good coping skills for dealing with our emotional and mental states. And that's what we're suffering from. We're not suffering from coronavirus. We're suffering from a state of mental fatigue because we don't know how to change what's happening in our life. So for the people that are sitting at home who have put on a lot of weight, my suggestion is to get out and have some enjoyment. So the main 2 things you need to do is increase physical relaxation, because the body is like a pressure cooker. It's just building pressure all day, just through the clothes we wear, tight-fitting clothes, the stimulants, the foods we eat, they upset our body, it causes tension. So many things. So all day you need to be increasing physical relaxation. Watch 1 minute of comedy on YouTube every hour or something and laugh. They say watching little kittens on YouTube, the kitten video, like one of the fastest ways to improve your physical feeling of happiness. Because that's what we're missing, is the physical feelings of happiness. And we miss all the great things that are actually really so close to us. The beauty in a flower, the bird. Just got to look up to be able to see something nice. But we get so caught inside our problems and that mental chatter that we're just focused in and we're looking down. So there's your depression. It's a real state of taking yourself out of your physical, mental state and thinking, okay, I'm just going to put that over here on the shelf for today. I've had enough. I need a holiday from my worry. And how to just pretend. And I don't mean pretend in a way that it's make-believe, but go, okay, well, it's over there and I can't change it, but I can look around and find things that make me feel happy. You need to increase your physical relaxation through little things through the day, a bit of a stretch, a bit of a giggle, step outside. The minute we get into a state of worry, I like talking about cow paths. Do you know cows when you see them? They've got their normal path to the dairy. Have you ever seen that?
No, I haven't, to be honest with you.
Well, a cow just follows the same path. These massive paddocks that they can wander around, but they just follow this one path. It's just such a groove. We do the same thing when we're at home. We have a cow path to our refrigerator. We have a cow path to our pantry. And when we leave places of work, we have a cow path to these places where food lives. So we need to get off our little cow path, which means if you're sitting at home and you're in front of the TV or you're on your laptop or whatever you're doing, if you find yourself on this path to the kitchen, you need to just be able to have a little bit of awareness so you can walk yourself outside. Because the minute you step over that threshold and you can feel outside life on your face, whether it's raining or sunny or windy or snowing, whatever it is, if you can get out across your threshold, you change your internal state and you've broken that moment where you were walking to a refrigerator. You find that your body has a little breath of like a sigh of relief. And then for that moment, you've broken that pattern of going to the refrigerator. So you've broken that one time that you didn't eat something. And if you do that each time throughout the day, you eat less. You feel better because you keep taking yourself outside. You only just have to go outside and stand in like sunshine or whatever it is, like not under a balcony, and feel the outside world on you, and you will make a change. So if people are doing stuff at home, I just would recommend that to increase physical relaxation and move themselves outside, appreciate what's around them, and just look for the beauty and the joy in what is there, and to increase some playfulness.
That's funny you say that, because I was telling you earlier, we just moved house. We moved into a new house, and when we moved in, I've been outside a lot more because we have an outside area. My gym is now outside. I work out outside. And right off the bat, within being here for about a week and a half to 2 weeks, like I just shed about 4 kilos. It just came right off super fast. I told my wife, because same thing happened for her. And I looked at her and I said, look, we're just outside more. It's as simple as that. When you're outside a little bit more, you don't have that driving force of sitting down and constantly the boredom, I think, that kicks in of let me just eat. And if you're a smoker, I quit smoking now 2-3 years. I've been smoke free. So people tend to gain weight after they quit smoking. I only gained like 2 kilos, if that. And right now it was just like being outside was my godsend. I totally agree with that point. I think it's a great point that people should just try and get outside a little bit more. And how do you express that to your clients with movement? Because movement is such an integral part of our lifestyle and our food lifestyle also. So what are some of the keys that you give your clients in terms of increasing their movement throughout the day or the week? Do you have them monitor their steps? Do you have them monitor time spent outside? Like, how do you work with that in terms of their psyche?
My suggestion is, well, first of all, they've got to find movement that they really like. So we're all different. And loads of people, we all feel that we need to go to the gym. Training is very important, but not everyone likes the gym and they don't like doing weights and things. So the first key is to find movement that they enjoy. So maybe it's hula hoop, or, maybe it's buying one of the mini rebounders and just bouncing. So it's got to be fun. So one of the things that I teach them is how to draw up a little chart and list all the things they actually like to do. Now, I used to have one and it had a whole bunch of strength building activities on there, but it didn't have lunges because I really do not like lunges. So they weren't on there. And for some people, there won't be a whole bunch of things, but it's to find activity that they like that gets them A, outside, or B, is sometimes it's inside work, if you're doing strength training. Find the activity that they like doing is A. B, make a list of those things so that they can do a little graph, because we have especially for people who are already really busy with the lifestyle or really busy being worried about stuff, we tend to not monitor ourselves very well on how much activity we're doing. So our brain lies to us quite a bit. And it says, I just did a workout last week, but you're standing on Friday of this week. And if you actually thought about when you did your workout last week, it might have been Monday last week. So really it's closer to 2 weeks than just last week. We also underestimate how much we do. And that's our negative self that comes in and bombards us. So we've got these kind of messages that happen that take away from the reality of what activity we are doing. So something that is measured is something that can be improved. If it's not measured, we don't really understand what we're doing. So A is to find things that you love doing. B, to draw up a little chart and then write down on the day to do it. Oh, this is just a date and maybe how many you did if you're just doing different things. You know, we're different to people who go to the gym, but it's just to keep a measure of what you're doing so that then you can consistently look back and say, I have achieved movement this week. I'm happy with what I've done, or I need to improve. But at least you've got an accurate record of what you're doing. And C is to not necessarily find a friend to do it with, but to have somebody that you like who is interested in as movement the same as you. A lot of people do advocate having an exercise buddy. I've had exercise buddies, though, in the past that were lazier than I was at the time. And I'd go to meet them somewhere and they go, oh, I'm really not in the mood. I'm not coming today. And because they weren't going, I then wouldn't go. So I don't advocate always to have an exercise buddy, but find somebody who enjoys the thing that you enjoy. So if you really like walking, find somebody who really likes walking so that you can do it together. Or if you really do love going to the gym, find somebody who equally loves it as much as you, not somebody who's not really sure if they want to go to the gym every day.
That totally makes sense. And it's funny because you say that, and over the last year and a half of podcasting and talking to smart people like yourself, my tone has completely changed. Before, I used to be anti-boot camp, anti-classes, anti-this, anti-that. And it's turned more into, all right, well, you know what? Look, if boot camp's doing it for you and you're actually getting out and you're moving a little bit more, then that's great. So keep doing what's working for you. And especially when it came to like a boot camp, I personally don't like boot camp classes, mainly because they can reinforce bad movement patterns. People can get hurt. You know, it's one person monitoring 15 to 20 people. It's kind of a recipe for disaster. But on the flip side, if you're not overdoing it, you're sticking within weights that are in your range, then it's good for you because that motivational factor of doing something you enjoy makes a huge difference. I play baseball. You know, I played baseball up until last year, and that's what got me back into fitness. When they said, hey, we're going to have a men's league, first thing in my head was, all right, I got to get in shape because I'm going to play 20 games. You know, I got to get my arm in shape. And you're right, it makes a huge difference. And what about the people that they fall, and there's always this cycle, and I want to touch on this before we wrap things up, the cycle of we'll do it for 3 weeks, and then we'll just fall off the wagon completely. How can we stop ourselves from falling off the wagon? I think that's really a key factor for a lot of people, and that's really the secret sauce of what everyone wants to know and how to keep it. So what's your perspective on that, and how would you coach someone through not falling off the wagon after week 3 or so?
It's a very good question because it is the thing that happens to everybody, right? They do just revert back to what they have been doing. Sometimes it lasts longer than 3 weeks, but sometimes not so much. So it does come back to what I was saying about keeping your metrics, like keeping a track of what you're doing, because that stops the lie to ourselves about how long ago it was. There's something magical about writing it down, because you're an A-type person like myself, you like to make lists and tick things off, and it's like, oh, I've done my workout, yay, I feel really good. But it's also to get that message to yourself, because our brain does really lie to us. Yeah, it was just last week, or it's only been 10 days. But when you look at the date on a calendar and you go, no, that has actually been 14 days, it's been 15 days, then there's something more real about looking at that. It's the difference between looking at a digital clock and an analog clock, I think. You know, sometimes time means different things. So it is writing it down. It's remembering to write it down, and it's remembering to check, because we have to remember to coach ourselves, because we don't coach ourselves very well. But that is actually the extra key, is remembering to coach yourself and be a good coach. Say to yourself what it is that you would say to your friend if they went, I don't really want to do it today. What would you say to your friend? You go, no, come on, it's good for you. You'll enjoy it. You'll have a great time. Come on, let's get outside and you would coach your friend, come outside. And we need to do that with ourselves. I had a client once, she said, I asked myself, I was feeling I didn't want to do my exercise. And her questioning to herself was, well, do I want to go? And her body would go, no, I don't. I want to stay in. I'm tired. I've worked hard. I've had a long week. And I said, well, you're asking the wrong question. Don't ask yourself, do I want to do it? Because your brain's always going to go, no, I do not want to do it, because that's its program for sticking with what is familiar and normal. What you need to ask yourself is a better question, which is, if I were to do it, what would be the first step I need to do it? It's probably put your clothes on. What would be the next thing? Put your shoes on. What would be the next thing? And coach yourself out the door. Make deals with yourself. So I have a 2-minute rule. 2 minutes is nothing, right? And people often say to me, well, 2 minutes isn't going to make you skinny. Yes, it is, because 2 minutes, if you have a rule for yourself, I'm just going to do 2 minutes of exercise. And if it's something that you've chosen, that's fun, hula hooping, putting on ABBA, that's what I do to get me going. Then I get home, or it gets to the end of the day and I go, oh, God, I'm tired, I don't really want to do anything. 2 minutes. I don't even have to change my shoes or my clothes. I put on some geeky music. I dance around the house with my hula hoop. And then before I know it, I'm feeling really good. And then I'm picking up the weights and I'm on the spin bike and I'm doing more. And I might not do an extensive workout, but I got my body moving. I felt happy. I released tension. And therefore, the cascade of program stops right there. So it reduces what I eat because I felt good about myself. I had a win. So that's probably the biggest thing, is make a really simple do or die thing that you do every day. Just 2 minutes. If you just make a 2-minute promise to yourself, you'll get going once you get going. Getting going is the hardest bit, right?
Yeah, that's definitely the hardest part. And I think that's great, and we should wrap up there. I'd love to bring you back on with Dr. Dinka and have you on the Psyched with Dr. D show, because I think you'd add a lot of value to that show, and Dr. Dinka would add a lot of value with the psychology from a psychological perspective. Those are some great viewpoints, and I think it's awesome that you gave some people a lot of actionable moves that they can make over, the course of their weight loss journey and having a dietless lifestyle. I think your work is amazing, and thank you so much for coming on to the show. We really appreciate it.
Thank you so much for coming on. I'd love to come back. It would be wonderful. It's just been really great talking to you. Thank you so much.
That's amazing. Thank you.
Thanks for listening to this episode. If you enjoyed it, please head over to iTunes to subscribe, rate, and leave a review. You can also find us on Instagram at The Project Kuwait. Thank you, and join us next time.